Let's continue adding some CSS styles to exercise 3. So I'm going to just zoom in so it's easier for you to see. It's easier for me to see. But we'll notice that H1, this looks pretty good, but this right here doesn't look quite right. Okay, so this is hanging over. Now remember, our header is 500 pixels wide, even with that border. Okay, and this H1 is 500 pixels wide, but it's beginning inside. So we have a couple of choices. We could either make H1 2 pixels shorter, so this border moves inside the red, or we could make this H1 move to the left 1 pixel. Okay, let's try a couple different things and see what happens. All right, so I'm going to have to zoom back out so my code is not so large, but let's first look at H1, and if we set the width to 498 px, and we'll save, and let's do an update, and you'll see if I zoom in, now it's behaving correctly. Okay, well, I can't say it was behaving correctly before, it's just now aesthetically it's what I'm looking for. All right, so what if I wanted the black border to be over the top of this red border? Okay, well, we're going to have to go back, and again, let's zoom out, and let's set our width back to 500. Okay, and then let's go down and look at our margin, and our margin right now is 20 pixels on the top, 0 on the right, 50 on the bottom, and 0 on the left. Let's try -1 px on our margin, and we will save. Okay, and let's go ahead and do a refresh, and I'm going to zoom in, and you'll see that the black is now over the top of the red on both sides. So we used negative margin to move our H1 element to the left. So you can use positive and negative margins. Okay, now I have border on all 4 sides the same because I just called out border, but I could call out a property border hyphen top, border hyphen right, border hyphen bottom, and border hyphen left, and control all 4 sides. So I could add a border, I could not add a border, I could change the width of each of the borders. Okay, all right, so what we're going to do now is this shadow, this text shadow is, I don't know, it's a little stark. It's fine, but let's go ahead and make this a softer shadow. So let's go back, and if we look at H1, okay, I'm going to zoom out again here so everything's not so large. So I have text shadow, all right, and we have 1 pixel, and then we have our color. I'm going to increase this to 4 pixels, and now what we're going to do is we're going to add another unit, and let's go with 4 pixels again. So this is the X, or the horizontal, this is the Y, or the vertical, and then this will create a blur. And then of course this is our color. So let's save, and let's do a preview. All right, So you can see we now have this softer shadow. Okay, maybe I don't want it to drop down so much. I'm going to go back and we will change 2, 2, and we'll leave 4. All right, so you can have that hard edge shadow if you want, or you can have something a bit softer. Okay, all right, let's go back to our pen and let's go ahead and in our header, after our border, I'm going to add border radius, and I'll go with 30px semicolon, and we'll save. And let's take a look. All right, so you can see we now have added rounded corners to our header. Okay, maybe I don't want rounded corners on all 4 sides. So what we'll do is we'll go back on header. We'll have 30px on the top right, 30px on the top left. Then the second value is 30px on the top right. Then we'll go 0 bottom left, bottom right, and 0 bottom left. And we'll go ahead and save. And we'll take a look. So we still have our border at the top, but we no longer have the border at the bottom. Let's go back, and on header, after our border, let's add background color, and I'm going to add, or we are going to add white, and white should be FF, semicolon. Now there is a shortcut because the 2 places for red are the same. We could do a single F, and because the 2 places for green are the same, we could do a single F, and because these are the same for blue, we could do a shorthand version. So this means the same thing. All right, I'll go ahead and just do all 6, and we'll save, and now we should see a background color inside. Okay, now let's deal with this image. So let's go back to our pen, and we have image. All right, now chances are we're going to have a lot of images. So if I were to target the image, then all images would get this rule. So we have a couple of things we could do. We could add a class here, and then we could do something like image dot and the name of the class to target this one, or we could use a compound in that we call out header and then image. Okay, so image is inside header, so I'm going to have this rule follow header. So we'll just drop down a little bit and we'll type header img, and we will add our curly braces. Okay, so now what we're going to do is on our header image, let's go ahead and set the width to 144px. We'll set the height to 144px, like so. Okay, so just like we did here with the width and the height, where we told the image to be this particular width and this particular height, I can also set a width and a height here. Okay, now let's go ahead and add a border, and our border will be, I don't know, let's try 6 pixels and solid, and we're going to call out a color. Let's just go with black. So #000000. equals black. Now again, you could just do 0, 0, 0 because the two characters, the alphanumerics, they're the same for red, green, and blue. Okay, so let's go ahead and save. And let's update. And you'll see that we have this really wide border here. Okay, so let's go back. And I accidentally put 60. No wonder it was so wide. Let's go with 6. We'll save. And there is our border. Okay, now let's go ahead and add some border radius to our header image. So we'll do border radius, and let's go with 20 px on all sides. And you can experiment having different values on each of the 4 sides and see, just to see what happens. So we'll save, and there we go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go back and let's change our border radius. Okay, now because the width and the height are the same, it's a perfect square. If we do this 100, and you can experiment, just see what happens. Sometimes you have a happy accident and discover something that maybe you wouldn't have done. You made a mistake, but it ends up looking cool. So, give it a try. All right, so we're going to set our border radius to 100%, and then we're going to save. And then this, if we refresh, should give us a perfect circle. So now, if we go back, and let's, after border radius, let's add box shadow, and we'll go with 6px on the x, 6px on the y. Let's go ahead and we'll go 6px for our blur, and then on our color, I don't know, let's add, I don't know, let's try this one here. Let's just see what happens. All right, so I'll get this hexadecimal, we'll copy, come back here, paste in our color, make sure we have our semicolon to end our declaration correctly. We will save, and then let's preview. Okay, now you could use positive and negative numbers and move this shadow around, and I encourage you to go and give that a try. Okay, so you can try different widths, you can try different blurs, and I'm not sure if it'll do it here in CodePen. We'll take a look, but if we were to use our RGB here, so if we were to copy this and go back to our code, and we were to change this to RGBA, and then we would paste in our RGB, and then we'll go ahead and save. And I think I've tried using RGB in here before, and I'm not sure if I had success with it. I'm not sure why, but let's just see. Okay, now so the RGB color appears to be coming up. Okay, so notice I have RGBA. So after this, so these are what they call RGB triplets. So 0 to 255 for red, 0 to 255 for green, 0 to 255 for blue. Let's add a comma and then 0.5. So what we're working with is opacity here. So 1.0 is 100% opaque. 0.5 is basically 50% opaque, or some would say 50% transparent. So let's go ahead and save, and let's see if we get that transparency. And we do. Okay, so you don't have to use hexadecimals. You could use RGB. Even better, you can use RGBA and then start to work with transparency. All right, we're going to end this video, and we will pick up in another video on a few more things we can do.